1.3 experimental design. So all the things that we talk about different types of data. We talk about population, we talk about sample, because that is what the main goal is. We're going to have to do some sort of design, right? We're going to do something with those information. We need to have a final product somehow, okay? So for this lesson, it's about how do you use those information and how you group them, okay? So let's look at, so our goal is to collect data and then use the data to make decisions. There's no reason for you to go around and do everything. You ask them questions, you get responses, and do nothing about it. That's a waste of time, right? So the goal is to collect and then use the data to make decisions. We do that, okay? So these are the things. You don't have to copy this down. This PowerPoint should be in the notes for you, in the note folder. But the only thing you want to do is you always should have a notebook. I do have one right next to me every day, just so that I can jot down anything that I think is important and I may forget, so I will do that. So have a notebook so you can jot down something like, oh, okay, this is interesting, this is something I should write down. So there's several things that we do when we conduct an experiment. Is that first we need to think about the population. What is our interest? What is the group that we want to target? Okay, then we come up with a plan. How are we going to collect data? So that's the step 2. Then it said collect the data. We actually do it, and that's the part that we do for this lesson, is that we're going to collect the data. Once you get the data, we're going to describe. We can use a scripted, right? We describe it, we organize it, we put in tables, graphs, paragraph, whatever we would describe it. Once we describe it, then we're going to interpret what is the data meaning to, what does that mean to us, and then we make the decision. And the final step is really important, is that we're going to identify any possible errors. That is what you've been doing right now when you do research for a college, right? When you look at college, you're like, okay, this college has, these are the things they have. So you identify, these are the colleges that I want to apply to, right? Then what you do, that's you identify the groups, these are the college. Then you come up with a plan, like, okay, now I can go to the website, I can call the office, I get all the information you need to know about that college, about the programs, what you want to major in, you talk to them about financial aid, everything, you talk about that. You get the information, you call, you go to do research, you jot it down. Then you look at all the information. Then what you do when I say describe the data is that you just have all the information in front of you. Like Loyola have these programs. These are the things they offer me. DePaul offer me these things, right? UIC offer me these things. And then what you do is you get all the information, like, okay, now which one is fit me better? DePaul, because it's right next to my house. It saved me time to commute. I don't have to live in the dorm. I can save money. Those are the things that you use, all the information. We do that all the time, right? And then we identify possible error. In this case, you don't really have to identify a lot of error. But that's when to test the people. When we do survey, we do responses. So these are the steps. The same thing if you do a science fair, right? These are the things we do. So, okay, there are 4 ways that we can collect data. The first one is observational study. The name itself, you can think about observational itself. You can think of what does that look like. We'll talk about that in detail, but right now, there are 4 ways for you to collect data, right? The second one is you actually perform an experiment. Number 3, if we don't do those 2, we can do what we call use a simulation, or we can do a survey. These are the 4 ways that we can get data, right? So let's look at the first one. Observational study, okay? The definition is you only observe, but you do not change the existing condition. What that means is you only observe, right? That is mean, let's think about when you're in school, a lot of time you see admin like Miss Bennett or Miss Krylan or Miss Nubler. They came to my room, right? And they just sat in the corner in the back and they just jot down something. That is the observational study. They come in, they just observe what we're doing, they record information, and then left. They don't do anything. They're not supposed to interact with you. They're not supposed to interact with me. They're just there to get the information. Well, a lot of times you get a bunch of people came to our school, right? And they like about 10 people. There was one time last year, there was like 10 people in one classroom. It's really intimidating. They are there to observe, okay? So for example, research observe and record mountain behavior on non-food objects of students up to 3 years old. So these people look at the kids and they don't do anything. They just look, jot down what they see. So that's called observational study. You only observe, but you don't do anything, okay? And then back to the arrow, okay. The next one is, so sometimes we don't observe. We will actually do something. If they perform an experiment, it's actually a treatment is applied to part of the population. On other part of the population may not use that control group. No treatment applied. So we want to compare something. So they may split into two groups. This group they gave some sort of treatment. This group they don't, and they compare the results after a week or a month. An experiment is a lot of time if you go to college, and this they do a lot in college buildings, is that they have those flyers with like research study. We need participants from this age to this age. We're gonna pay you an hour of your time. So those are the things that you get people to do it. You actually do an experiment. You actually get to do whatever you want to do, right? You actually do it. You interfere with what in front of you, okay? So it's different than observational. Observational, you don't do anything. You just record information. This, you actually do something. The example will be a placebo may be given to a control group. Placebo is like it looks like the pill, the medication that you are taking, but it's just like sugar pill. It doesn't do anything to you, right? It looks like it weight about the same to give it. So some people and mentally they think, oh, I'm taking this medication, I should feel better. Versus they don't really need it, but they think they need it, so they use it. Okay, that's the second way to get data. The third one is use a simulation. This one is the one that they use a mathematical or physics model to reproduce the condition of a situation or process. For example, they use dummies to study the effect of crashes on humans. Think about this. You don't want to sit in that car and do the experiment yourself, right? You may get killed. You may break your neck. I don't know. It's not a smart thing to do, right? So use simulation. This is where you use a dummy, right? For the same thing with other things that it may hurt you or the object, then they will use simulation. Okay, they use a model of something to study about it. Okay, the last one I use in survey. We do this all the time. To do survey, it can be like the interview. We can mail. We can do it through the phone. We get a lot of phone call every day, right? People want to do survey. Nowadays, we can use Google Docs, or you do this on Facebook. There are other apps that you guys use that I'm not really following, like Twitter. I don't know, other things. Those are the way we act, like the same thing. Like, should I buy this one? Should I not buy this one? What do I do? You can ask your peers about, okay, I'm thinking about these three colleges. I'm looking at Loyola. What do you think? So with surveys, I'm asking a question, you get some sort of response back. So that's different than this observation, study, right? Observational is like you don't ask questions, you're just there to look at it. Survey, you actually impose a question and you should get the response back. So you have a little bit more interaction versus the observational, okay? All right, let's check in. I have these 4 situations. This is where you're going to type in number 1. Think about the 4 way that we talked about. The first one is, I'm going to type it back up here so that you can see if you forgot. Where do I do this? Okay. So the thing that we have, observational, that's 1. Okay, observational. The other one is you actually do an experiment. The third one is use simulation. Simulation means you're not going to do it yourself because you may get hurt. You don't want to do that. Simulation, okay? And the last one is survey. It's really hard to write with the mouse, so I'm going to do it short. So there are 4 ways to collect data, okay? Number 1 is say the study of effects of change in flight patterns on the number of airplane accidents. What do you think? Do you think we actually can do an experiment on it, or can we observe? Can we use simulation, experiments? What is that? Number 2 is study of the effect of eating oatmeal on lowering blood pressure. Okay. Number 3 is a study of how 4th grade students solve a puzzle. Number 4, a study of U.S. resident approval ratings of the U.S. president. So don't get confused. Doesn't mean that all of these 4 apply to these 4, right? There could be something that can be overlapped. Okay, so I'm going to back to the mouse. Let's see some responses. The first one is simulation. Yes, right, because we talk about airplane accidents. I'm not going to sit in that airplane and test it out. No way. I don't think you can get anyone. I don't think you pay enough. You may die from it, right? So we don't want that. So number 1, simulation. Agree. Observation. I can see why you say observation. Yes. What you do is don't change observation. Don't change. I can go with this. Okay. Because you don't actually do an experiment. So you may, okay, I can see why. But it's not observation in a way that we cannot sit there and observe every airplane accident, right? Observation means you are there, you're watching it, you get the information. So this is why I see it. It's kind of true. You observe, but it's not quite because you cannot be there to observe for all the airplane accidents. So that's why observation is not it. But if you do the summative and you put this and you want to miss one, this is my reason. I may give you points for it. So I may take it. All right. So simulation, okay, so hold on. That's number 2 is a study of the effect of eating oatmeal on lowering blood pressure. Okay. So for this one, I can see some of you may go different route, a study of the effect. So for this one, it's actually an experiment because it's the effect of eating oatmeal. So you actually give someone the oatmeal and you're going to observe and you're going to record that, right? So if you put down observation, I may see why, but this one you're actually doing something, you're actually giving oatmeal. So experiment is the correct answer. But if you say observation, I still can take that as long as you can back up with your explanation. Okay, so like this person said observation, I may say it's okay, but the correct answer is experiment because you actually give the oatmeal. So you actually do something toward the population. So that's why observation is not quite right. It could be, but it's not quite. Okay, all right, so let's look at number 3, a study of how a 4th grade student solve a puzzle. So for this one, just solve a puzzle. So they have a puzzle. So this one is observational because you're there to look at them, right? So you're not doing an experiment. You don't want to see they just want to see how they do it. So that's the difference between number 3 and number 2. Number 2, you want at the end, you want to see what happened. You want a final result. You want an answer. You want a conclusion. Number 3, I'm just observing. I'm just looking at it. I don't have an end at the end. I'm not going to draw any conclusion. I don't need to answer any question, right? So that's different. So number 3 is observational. So let's see. This is good. Observation. Good. Okay, and the last one is survey. right? This is a study of U.S. press approval of rating the U.S. president, which is happening right now. I hope that you watched the debate last night. I did. There's many things that is interesting. So this one is a survey. You can mail, you can do in social media, you can mail, you can call. So the last one is survey. So that is good. Great. Awesome. Survey. That is good. Okay. Cool. So for this one, the two things. Right now, I just want to do one more example on this one and say, think about the four methods: observational, you design an experiment, a survey, and simulation. So number one, a study of the effect of exercise on relieving depression. Number two, a study of success of graduates of a large university finding a job within 1 year of graduation. Number two is a little bit harder to decide, right? It's really close, but there's two things really close. So let's see what you can say about this. Number one, I think it's a little bit more straightforward than number two. Okay, I have 8 students respond. So let's look at the first experiment. Okay. Okay, we have answer different here. Say survey. Number two, observe. Okay, all right. Number one, think about this. This is a study of effect on exercise relief and depression. So in this case, think about, are you going to do something? An experiment means actually do something. So ask yourself, are you going to do something for your study? Okay. And in this case, yes, because you have a group of people with depression, you ask them to exercise. And then you check in the symptom at the end of the month, the end of a year, right? So for this one, you actually have someone to do exercise and the other group not doing exercise, and you compare to see how that affects them. So for number one, it is an experiment. You may say it's observation. Okay, I can see that. Though the one thing is that with observation, you don't you have to do yes you tell them what to do and then you observe, but we're asking what is the first thing that you do. So that's the case. So in this case, experiment is the correct answer. Observational, you put that in summative, I'll give you some partial credit if you can back up your answer. Okay. Number two is a study of the success of graduates of a large university finding a job within 1 year of graduation. I can see that I have not looked at the answer. I'm not going to show it, but I guess that for number two, we may say observational, but it's not quite observational because the thing is you're not going to be able to observe all of the graduates. So survey is more correct because you receive an email that, or you can a letter say how you do. Can you tell us? I still receive an email from Loyola. I attend Loyola for my college. I still receive email from them or mail from them asking how I do, also donation for the school. So those are the things. So observational study, I can see why you chose that, but the one thing is different is that observational, you should be there to observe everything, right? In this case, you cannot, because they graduate, they are all over the place. They're not going to be in one place for you to observe, so that's not the case. So observational, like I said, I may give you some partial credit, but the answer should be survey. You would do survey. So the answer should be experiment and survey. Okay. Cool. So any question for me right now? We're gonna talk about once you collect data, you chose a method to do it. And then you're going to find, okay, now what do I do? This is called sampling technique, right? You want to do observational study. You have to choose a group for you to do that study. You do an experiment. You have to choose a group of people for you to do an experiment. Okay. You want to use simulation. You have to think, what is my goal? What do I want to test out? So even survey, who am I sending my survey to? So these are a way that you can get those data. So it's broken down to 5 things. Number 1 is random sample. Number 2, stratified. Number 3, cluster. Number 4, systematic. And the last one is convenient. For out of these 5, there are 3 things that's kind of very straightforward for us. Like if you don't remember, and even though you don't listen to what I'm saying right now, by look at the name, say random, systematic, and convenient. You may guess what they would do with that, right? Stratify and cluster is a little bit difficult because like stratify, I know what cluster means, but I'm not quite sure. Okay, so it's different, but at least these 3, if you look at the name, it's kind of sort of explain itself. Okay, so let's break it down. Look at the first one. Random is every member in the population has an equal chance of being selected. Random does mean you don't have any system in your mind. Like, I'm just going to get someone to do this example. So for example, if I'm going to cold call someone, if I say, Rudy, can you tell me what you think? Or I can say, Cheyenne, can you share me the answer? Right? Or I can call Demetrius. Anyone in this class, when I call you, trust me, I don't have a plan. I'm not here to attack you. So sometimes you think a teacher here to attack you. I'm like, you just want to pick on me. Not really. I'm not going to go through the night and plan that, right? So every random means anyone can be part of it. So it's really random. Okay. I go to the mall and I'm just like, okay, anyone pass by me, I will ask a question. I would go to Macy's. I would ask anyone in that store, or I can go to Kohl's. Anyone in that department store, I can ask questions. So that's random. Okay, stratify. This one is a little bit harder, and I have a diagram. Stratify is you pull the same, characteristics, but from different groups. So if you look over here, I have 1, 2, 3 groups. Okay. What you do is you're going to pull the same characteristic. Look at group 1. I'm pulling blue, and this is mint. I'm pulling this color. So if anything with this color in this group 1, I pull that color. Now for group 2, it's a middle income. I'm doing the same thing. I'm pulling this. This should not be here. Okay. Sorry. This should not be. I should not circle that. I make a mistake on my part. So I should pull blue and mint. Same thing over here for this group. I should pull blue and mint. That is what I mean by pull the same characteristic, but from different groups. So right now, think about senior advisor. This is what I would do. I'm going to go to every senior advisor. I'm going to pull 1 male student to do my survey. That is stratify. You put exactly 1 male per advisee for the seniors. Or you can think about each grade level, freshman, sophomore, juniors, and senior. I'm going to pull a female student from each grade level to do my survey. Or I can say I'm going to pull 5 female, or I'm going to do 20 female. The number is you decide how many you want to pull, but you're going to do a set for each group, right? The same thing is you collecting money for your advising. Like each you're going to pay me $5. You're going to have a party at the end of the semester. Each you're going to pay me $5. I'm getting the same thing. Okay, so that's stratified. So that's different than random. You have a purpose and you know exactly who you want from each group. Okay, so that's the difference. So same characteristic from different groups. Again, the one that I X out, that is a mistake. I should not circle that. Okay. Questions for me? Okay. The next one, the third way to do it is called cluster sample, right? Cluster is that you still split in groups, but instead of pull the same characteristic from each group, I'm going to select the entire group. So I want to do survey. I mean, you know what? I'm going to just survey the senior. I'm not going to do anything with my freshmen. I'm not going to do anything with sophomore. I'm not going to do anything with juniors. Like I like the senior. I'm just doing the senior. Okay. So that's the difference. So example, I'm choosing one senior advisory to interview about a plan after high school instead of do every senior advisory. Okay. So cluster mean I have 1, 2, 3, 4 groups, but I'm only choose one group to do it. You may choose more than one. Don't get me wrong. You may choose group 2. You may choose more than one. But what you doing is whatever you do, you choose the entire group instead of pull from each group. You can do the entire group. That's the difference. Okay, system method. I think this one is kind of self-explained. It's that you have a system of doing things, and you keep telling me I have a system of doing my thing, or you like look at. And sometimes I tell my student like your folder is a mess. I cannot find anything in there, right? And some of them just went. I have a way. I know what I'm doing. I can just get the assignment right now if you want me to. I have a system, right? So you have a way to organize things. System means you have a way. So over here, the example would be so it's some sort of like you assign some sort of a number or something, right? And then you kind of sort of organize them in a certain way, and then you like I'm going to do this. So for example, I'm going to choose every fifth member to do surveys. So over here, the example I have on the bottom is for the population. I'm just going to do every 3. So I'm going to start with 2, and then I'm going to skip, and then I will do the 5th. I skip 2, I will do the next one. I skip 2, and I pull the 3rd one. Okay, so that would be a pattern that I'm having. Like I skip every 2 people, and then I will get my survey. So I sample every 3rd person. Okay, or you would come in the lunchroom and you was like, okay, every 10th person would get this. Or people like you just they do some sort of give you a reward like every 5, if you're the 100th customer, you get this coupon, you get this prize, something like that. So system method, you have a system, you have a way of doing it, and there is a pattern to it. So one thing that I want to put over here, and it's pattern. You have a specific way to do it. You have a pattern for it. Okay. Okay. If you have questions, put in the chat or unmute, ask me question. Okay. I'm hoping you're still awake. Don't fall asleep on me. Almost done. The last one is a convenience sample. Convenience consists only the available members of the population. That is mean convenient is more like I'm too lazy to go out my way and do things, right? It's there, so I'll do it. For example, I'm going to survey all the students in this class. So right now, I'm just saying, guys, let's talk about the president, Trump, the president candidate. Okay, so let's talk about Trump and Biden. What do you think? Who are you going to vote for? And I'm just going to ask you guys. I'm not going to go out my way. I'm not going to go out to I'm not going to do anything extra because I already have you in front of me. And like, let's do the poll. Let's do a survey. Okay. So those are the things that you want to think about, right? Convenient means it's right there. I don't have to do anything extra. Or sometimes like, let's do a survey. Oh, I'm going to take out my phone, right? And then you post a question in your Facebook and your Instagram and your Twitter. And I'm not sure if there are other things that I don't know. But you can do that. And then you get to respond really fast from your peers, right? So that's convenient. It's available to you. It's right there. You don't have to do anything extra. Okay, so let's check in. This is where I'm going to ask you to do responses. So if you're still awake, wake up or text each other. Hopefully, I know it's kind of hard to sit and listen to me for the past, I don't know, 15 minutes. Okay, if you're doing a study, these are the things let's go, there are 5 things. I'm going to repeat it while you type in your responses. Please type in random. The second one is stratified, cluster, systematic, and convenient. Okay. So for number 1, you select a class at a random and question each student in the class. Number 2, you divide student population with respect to major and randomly select and question some of the student each major. Okay. So this, I'm going to highlight the keyword for you. This one is some student in each major. The last one should be number 3. I don't know what happened to my number 3. I promise you I did put number 3, but it's gone. You assign each student a number and generate random numbers, and you question each student whose number is randomly selected. Number 3 is a little bit harder. Okay, so there are 5 things. I'm going to repeat. Random, stratify, cluster, systematic, and convenient. Okay. Oops, I need to change the arrow. Okay, so let's see. Number 1. You say cluster. I see someone say random, random, random. About to. I see this R. I assume it's random. It is random for number 1 because, like I said, I just underlined the key thing they tell you is at random. They tell you right here. You select a class at random and question each student in the class. So you can say random. However, you may think it's random because I underlined the word random. But if you put down cluster, for those who chose cluster, that is correct. Cluster is correct because you choose the entire class and you question all of them. So this is cluster. But if you say random, fine, I'm okay. Again, like I said, you may back up. So I see a lot of you chose random because I underlined random, but it say you choose the entire class. They say a class, and you question each student. When I say each student, meaning the entire class. So this is more like it's more like cluster. So number 1, a cluster. So you put random. Okay, I can agree with you. But number 1 should be cluster. Okay. It's not easy. I know it's not easy. So you will have time today to work with your peers and figure out what to do. We'll do it next time. Okay. Number 2, you divide and you question some student. Here's the thing. You don't do all of them, but you question some. Here's the key word is some student in each major. So number 2 is stratify. Stratify means I split into groups. In this case, I have different majors. And then I pull some student from each major. So I do get each student from, I guess, some student from each major. So this is stratify, right? Number 3, you assign, for this one, even though I say you assign a number, and we may think of systematic because I just said it. Systematic means you assign some number. But this one, you assign numbers, right? But you don't have a system. You don't do anything with that number. You give them a number and then you call them out. This is like a lottery when you do, if you play lottery, right? At the night, they roll that basket and then they just pull out that number, right? You assign numbers, but it's really random. You don't have a system. You're not going to get every 5th ball or something. When you roll that basket and you get the ball for the lottery, it's just a random number. So even though this one says you assign a number, they throw this in to confuse you, but it's not, right? So for number 3, this one is pretty random. So this is actually random, okay? This is randomly selected. Okay, so cluster is the first, is number 1. Number 2 is stratify, and number 3 is random, okay? I know it's really hard because you don't have the word in front of you. That's why my suggestion is if you have a notebook and jot down some keywords, and that would help you to go back and answer these questions. It's different than when we have in class. I'll give you the PowerPoint and you should have everything in front of you. So that's a little bit harder. So thank you for for participating in this one. I appreciate as I know there's a lot of questions